Something extraordinary is happening at the bottom of the planet. A continent once locked beneath ice and storms is waking up. The snow is gone. The winds have softened. And for the first time in 35 million years, Antarctica is alive. Imagine stepping out onto a land that's no longer a frozen desert, but a vast green continent. Rivers cut through valleys. Grasslands stretch to the horizon. Forests rise where glaciers once ruled. Penguins wander alongside deer, and the air hums with the sound of life. But what happens next? What happens when the last untouched land on Earth becomes habitable? This is Altanate, where imagination meets reality. And the world as you know it begins to bend for Antarctica to become livable. The planet must change beyond recognition. Global temperatures would need to rise by around 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, enough to melt the thick ice sheet that locks away 60% of the world's freshwater as it collapses. Sea levels would surge by 60 meters, swallowing coastlines, cities, and memories. New York would vanish beneath the waves, Mumbai, Shanghai. London gone, hundreds of millions displaced, entire nations erased. And yet, out of that loss, a new world emerges at the edge of the map. Antarctica, now free of its icy prison, would reveal what has been hidden for tens of millions of years. Mountains taller than the Alps, valleys deeper than the Grand Canyon, and networks of ancient rivers that once carried life across the continent. It's a land larger than Europe, and suddenly, the most valuable piece of real estate on Earth. Scientists would rush to study the exposed ground, and what they find would rewrite history. Layers of soil packed with ancient pollen and plant life, proof that Antarctica was once a lush rainforest. Fossilized wood showing trees that grew in warm, humid climates. And deep below, evidence of ecosystems older than any known civilization. The world would stare in awe. And then the rush would begin. The race for Antarctica would make the space race look small. Governments, corporations, and private pioneers would descend on the continent like moths to flame. Oil companies scanning the new land for untapped reserves. Tech billionaires funding eco-cities to escape the chaos of a drowning planet. And desperate populations, climate refugees, sailing south in search of a new beginning. But there's a problem. Antarctica belongs to no one. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959 forbids any country from claiming it. It was meant to be a sanctuary for science, untouched by politics or greed. But as sea levels rise and resources vanish, treaties lose their meaning. The world's powers would begin to act. The United States might establish the first permanent settlement near the old McMurdo Station. China could turn its research bases into fortified megacities. Australia and Argentina might fight for their share of the new coastlines and countries that lost everything to the rising seas. Bangladesh, the Netherlands, island nations would demand compensation and land. It wouldn't take long before the first shots were fired, not with bullets, but with bulldozers, contracts, and colonization. Antarctica would become humanity's last frontier and its most contested one. But what would life actually look like there? As the ice melts, the ground below would darken, absorbing sunlight and warming rapidly. The air, once razor-sharp and unbreathable, would thicken with moisture. Rain would replace snow. Rivers would carve through valleys. The first green shoots would pierce the ground. Mosses, grasses, and hardy shrubs. Scientists predict parts of West Antarctica could resemble modern-day Patagonia, windy, cool, and fertile enough for crops like barley and potatoes as conditions stabilize. Humans would terraform the landscape. They'd introduce trees from temperate regions, engineer crops that thrive in mineral-rich soil, and slowly create entire agricultural belts. It wouldn't be easy. The sun still disappears for months in winter, plunging the land into darkness, but with fusion-powered energy grids and solar farms stretching. For miles, the new settlers would adapt. Massive greenhouses would rise, glowing through the polar night, producing food, oxygen, and hope. The once dead continent would pulse with life again. But beneath the beauty lies danger. Melting glaciers would release gases trapped for millions of years, methane, carbon dioxide, and possibly ancient microbes frozen since before humanity existed. Some of those microbes could die instantly upon exposure. Others might survive, and some might evolve. A new microbial ecosystem could bloom, one humanity has never encountered. Scientists would scramble to study it, debating whether to contain it or let it evolve freely. A single microscopic survivor from the ancient world could challenge our entire understanding of biology. And that's not the only mystery. Waiting under the ice. Researchers have long known of vast subaglacial lakes buried miles below the surface, isolated for millions of years. When exposed, these hidden worlds would awaken, unleashing unique organisms that evolved in complete darkness. To explore them would be to peer into the past, to see life as it once was before humans ever appeared. As cities rise across the continent, humanity's true nature begins to show. Eco-cities powered by wind and fusion at first seem like symbols of rebirth, shimmering beacons of progress. But soon, greed follows. Corporations exploit newly revealed minerals, rare earth metals, uranium, Even diamonds, governments start building militarized zones under the guise of research bases. Old. Rivalries find new battlegrounds. Antarctica, the planet's last refuge, becomes a mirror, reflecting everything we've ever done wrong. Deforestation spreads. Pollution returns. And in the name of survival, the new world begins to look eerily like the one that died. But it wouldn't all be darkness. Among the settlers would be scientists, dreamers, and children, a new generation growing up in a land their ancestors could only imagine. For them, Antarctica wouldn't be a refuge, it would be home. They'd build new languages, new cultures, new ways of living in balance with a fragile planet for the first time in centuries. Humanity might actually learn what it means to start over, not by conquering, but by coexisting. Still, the rest of the world would continue to burn. Rising seas would swallow what's left of the tropics. Heat waves would make the equator uninhabitable. Tens of millions would head toward the poles, north to Canada and Siberia, south to the reborn Antarctica, and slowly, the population balance of Earth would shift. The world's new capitals might rise near the old coastlines of the Ross Sea or the Antarctic Peninsula. Global trade routes would reverse, circling the pole instead of the equator. Maps would change, history would reset, but survival always comes with a price, Antarctica's. Climate, though habitable, would still be volatile, prone to storms, earthquakes, and massive floods from unstable glaciers. Living there would mean living on a knife's edge, where nature constantly reminds humanity who truly controls the planet. Scientists studying the exposed land would uncover something even more extraordinary. A record of Earth's forgotten ages, fossils of tropical forests, imprints of insects long extinct, and even traces of early mammals that once roamed its plains. Each discovery would be a reminder that Antarctica was never just a frozen wasteland. It was once alive, thriving, and green. And then they find something else, signs that Antarctica's ice cycles might have been influenced by astronomical events, shifts in the planet's orbit, magnetic field changes, or even meteor impacts. The deeper they dig, the more questions emerge about Earth's balance and how close we are to tipping it for good. What if Antarctica's awakening isn't just the result of human warming, but part of a natural cycle that humanity has accelerated beyond control? If so, then the habitable Antarctica wouldn't be a new beginning, but the planet's attempt to reset itself. And that's where the philosophy returns. If humanity gets another chance, a clean slate on the last continent, what will we do with it? Will we learn from our mistakes, or repeat them on new soil? Some will see it as hope, proof that life finds a way, even after collapse. Others will see it as punishment, a forced exile to the ends of the earth, where the ghosts of drowned cities echo across the waves. Maybe it's both. Maybe the question isn't what if Antarctica was habitable, but what if the only way for life to continue was for the old world to die? Because when the ice melts and the land awakens, humanity will face its greatest test, not of survival, but of identity. To live in Antarctica would mean living with the memory of everything we lost. Every city, every coastline, every failure. And maybe that's what it would take to finally understand what balance means. So, what if Antarctica was habitable? It could be the dawn of a new age, or the last chapter of civilization. A green paradise born from global collapse. A reminder that even in ruin, life doesn't end, it evolves. Maybe the Earth isn't dying. Maybe it's just starting over, without us, or with whoever learns to listen this time. This is Altanate, where every what if shows how close imagination is to reality. Subscribe for more stories that will make you question the world you think you know.